I think we are live in Facebook, and thank you very much. Welcome to everybody that is with us today. My name is Miguel Cortines, and I'm president of Casa Mexico Foundation and founder of Tu Espacio. So today is the last event of our Latin American Art Festival that we are organizing, and we put together a great program called The Future of Digital Work in the Art Sector. And first, I want to welcome all the speakers and guests that are joining us today. We have Minister Lila here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us, Minister.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you very much. And we have also as well Patty Pong with Calgary Arts Development. Welcome, Patty.
Hi, Miguel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. We have Simon Mallet with the Rosa Foundation. Hello, Simon.
Hi.
And Jennifer Jorson with Arts Commons. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
And Derek Stevenson with ATV Financial, the Arts and Branch Culture.
Hi, Miguel. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I want to recognize as well, first, the support that we have had for this program to Calgary Arts Development, to the Rosa Foundation, to C. Space King Edward, that is home to Casa Mexico, and to Hispanic Arts as well, that is partnered with us in this event. And first, I would like just to provide a very short overview about what it was the experience for this Latin American Art Festival that we put together. We have organized this festival in physical presence since 2000, well, 2 years ago, and this was the 3rd year. We took the decision of taking the program online in a virtual program. And yeah, originally we were planning for a visual exhibition. We had 21 artists participated in the exhibition. And additionally, we added another elements like poetry nights on Thursdays, theatrical nights on Fridays, cultural performances on Saturdays, and also rock in Spanish on Saturdays as well. And also we have introduced a program that is every Sunday, that is storytelling for kids. It has been a great experience, obviously with the talent of the different artists and community groups that are participating with us. And yeah, so today, the presentation and the idea of putting together this program of the future of digital work, I think is very relevant because when I start talking to some of the organizations or the artists that we presented the idea of presenting some kind of a work in digital format, they were like hesitant at some point, scared at some point. The theatrical performance told me, well, presenting theater probably in a digital model is going to be challenging. But the best experience of this is that at the end, after the experience, I think everybody had the opportunity to experience there in real, and they were very excited and ready to do more things virtually as well. So we don't know the future, or maybe we have an idea about what is going to future of digital work combined probably with physical presence as well. But well, this is part of the conversation that we want to have today. And with that, I would like basically to introduce Minister Lila Aher. She's the Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism, and Status of Women. And Minister Aher was first elected as member of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta for the constituency of Chestermere Rocky View on May of 2015. She was re-elected in 2019 as the MLA for Chestermere Strathmore. She's born in Edmonton, raised in Chestermere, and she's very proud wife and mother of 2 boys. Very involved in politics and very supportive of the culture and our province. Thank you and welcome, Minister Lila.
Thank you, Miguel. And I have to, my 2 boys are now men. They're 21 and 23. When I was first elected, they were definitely boys at that time. So I always have to make that correction, although they'll always be boys to me. I'm sure every parent out there can agree with that. But I just wanted, thank you so much. And I'm like seeing all of the faces and the names that are popping up into this event. Miguel, your reach has absolutely changed everything about how we're doing things. I think those of us who have the privilege of working in the arts community have just been blown away by how nimble this community is, how we're putting things together. Patty, of course, I mean, you're just a rock star. There's so many things I want to say about all of you, and I'll get to that. But the last few months, our lives have been turned upside down, and we have to acknowledge the loss of life and the change that has happened to all of us. And yet through all of that, through the horrible fear that COVID has put into all of us and the loss of life, even with all of that, there has been incredible changes in how we've stretched ourselves and being able to reach the communities and bringing the arts to people at a time. I just don't think there's been a more important time than right now to be able to get arts to people. And your reach has really changed that. And obviously, and I actually didn't know, Miguel, that you had these Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I'm so sorry that I'm coming in at the last minute. That's the problem with having these ministries, is that we find out about this, but we're always sort of up here and not knowing what is happening on the ground and all of the work that you're doing and the level of art that you're bringing to the community. So thank you so much for that. And I'm really looking forward to going backwards a little bit and finding out about all of this that you've brought forward. You talked too about hesitation and fear and about what it's like to try and change your platform. But again, our sector is completely positioned we ever were able to before. And being able to adapt and deliver services differently, you have all shown through this an incredible creativity and adaptivity, and Nation has adapted this exhibition online. I mean, it really gives you a lot of hope of the future possibilities. And you were talking about that, Miguel. I'm sure it'll be quite a large part of your discussion. And just so for those of you who are chiming in, I mean, the panelists that you're going to hear from today, and I want to thank all of you for coming forward because it has been challenging. So Patty Pon, of course, Patty, you have built the performing arts and theater scene for decades. And I mean, I didn't really get to know you until I was elected, and just, it's all consuming sometimes reading the work that you do and what you participate in, and your passion for a strong, sustainable arts sector in our city. And thank you so much for everything you do. You're such an inspiration. Simon, we only know each other through having read about each other, and I get to actually see you in person today. And I mean, you're a director and a playwright and an actor. And I think so much of the work that you've been doing through Rosa Foundation to get these online platforms, congratulations to you and the work. I just, again, so proud to know you and to see you here today. Jennifer, I mean, you pivoted the Arts Commons to the AC at Home platform in it felt like days. I just, again, thank you so much for your work and inspiring so many of us to be able to move forward with these platforms. And Derek, of course, I mean, you're the perfect combination of arts and finance, which is exactly what we need. And I mean, I just don't think there could be more valuable experience right now than having that combination and having the support of ATD at this point in time. I mean, the livelihoods of our artists have been so, I mean, we can't underestimate, even going forward, the impact that it's going to have on our theaters and our galleries and our classrooms and performance spaces. And at this same, to be able to give them a source of hope and entertainment and connection. And I think the opportunity to, and Miguel, you were talking about your story series that you have on Sundays, where you have these incredible storytellers come in. What a beautiful opportunity to be able to connect and reminding the world that we're not alone. If we look at our seniors in particular right now, the amount of isolation that is going on there, and we're doing it to protect them, but at the same time, like the amount of isolation that is going on in that particular group of people, it's actually heartbreaking to know that they can't see and be with their families. And so a lot of what we can do is bring a lot of joy and hope into those folks. And I mean, the cycle of inspiration through the arts and technology has always been there, and the inspiration. And I mean, if you think about, you know, how we've transformed, one of the things that is really interesting is the digital world and how we're transforming a lot of the information we have into digital, even before COVID, so that people have more access to it in different places. And I mean, I'm sure most of you would agree with me that the internet is its own artistic expression and has the ability to transform everything about how we're doing. And I just, again, thank you so much to all of you who are hosting performances, who are wrapping our world with the embrace of arts and performing and activity and bringing it into our homes. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I'm so sorry that I can't stay for this full discussion. They have me booked in for a full kitty of meetings today, but I just want to tell you how much I love all of you, how much I respect the work that you're doing, what a privilege it is to work with all of you, especially being in COVID together. This is an incredible team. And again, the privilege is all mine. And thank you very much for having me today, and all the best today in this conference.
Thank you very much, Minister Lila. And yeah, you are right. It's one of the most important experience with these Sundays with the storytelling, because it's very focused for kids, is the imagination, because this storytelling is Carolina Slim is the name of the artist that is presenting. She's presented the images, but also the imagination, right? And this is something that probably we are losing a little bit. And right now with this opportunity is to coming back, right, to the imagination and to deliver another values. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your timing here with us. And we understand that you have to leave soon, but let's start the conversation with our guest speakers and see you soon. Well, today we have a very, our guest speakers today. I'm going to start with the first presenter. We are going to have a presentation, probably around a 6-minute presentation for each of the speakers. And after, we are going to have the opportunity to have just a discussion. And I would like to start with Patty Pond, President and CEO of Calgary Arts Development. Patty is a veteran community and arts champion with an extensive track record in leadership and service in Calgary. Patty has deep and diverse experience in the arts sector, having served as Vice President Administration at the Epcot Center, now Arts Commons, with stints at the Alberta Performing Arts Stabilization Fund and Alberta Theatre Projects, among others. In the community, she serves on the board of the Calgary Foundation and on a committee for the Calgary Stampede. She was a founding board member of the Asian Heritage Foundation and served on the steering committee for Imagine Calgary, as well as the board of the CKUA Radio Network. She comes to the position of President and CEO from his most recent position as Director of Resource Development with Calgary Arts Development. And well, Patty, the stage is yours. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Miguel. And again, as Minister here said, it's just such a pleasure to be a part of this conversation. And hello to all of you who are attending this panel. First off, as always, whenever I participate in public forums like this, I always acknowledge the land on which I rest, or I am resting, and maybe not so much. We are on the I am on the ancestral territories of the people of Treaty 7. It's comprised of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai Nations. It also includes the Tsuut'ina Nation and our Stoney Nakoda friends and nation, and also the Métis people of Alberta Region 3, and all those from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities who call Calgary home, as well as the settlers who have the great honor of taking care of this place and sharing in its well-being. So thank you all very much. And again, you know, the land acknowledgement for me is something that's very, very personal. I always try to kind of bring meaning. And I think that in this context of the conversation we're having today, this notion of meaning making, right, is something through oral traditions with the original peoples of this land has been present for a very long time. And so the digital world then becomes a mechanism, right? Another means with which we can help create meaning, with which we can help to connect. And so I don't know that my kind of beginning comments are so much specifically about the digital world, other than to say it is a part of our world. It is a space in which we can all create meaning. And so how do we do that? And as Calgary Arts Development, we certainly rely on artists to help us identify how that will be. And then Kata's role is to then, how do we then help create those conditions where artists can do just that, whether it's in an online world or an offline world. And I think as we come out of COVID-19, you know, a few things just to set a context for how we're thinking about this at Calgary Arts Development. You know, you may have heard me last week on the news, we had our annual general meeting with our shareholder, that's City Council. And I said that the arts sector globally, one of the very first parts of the city, of the community to be affected, to be deeply impacted. You know, the day the public bands came down, 4 o'clock, 7:30, there were curtains that did not rise. There were tickets that had to be refunded the next day. There was zero income that came in. Festivals who were scheduled to take place in large forums did not. And so first to be affected, we will be the last, quite literally, I believe, the last to recover. And at the risk of really depressing the heck out of people, I don't think this is months away. I think this is years away. So what do we do in the meantime? Artists are going to continue to create art, regardless of whether there's a ban on gathering or not. That's the one thing I do know for sure in all of this. So with that being said, how then does how does technology help artists to do exactly that? And for some of you, I know you've been doing this as part of your practice all along. So it's not like we're asking you to pivot to something differently. Maybe scale is different. Maybe others who are coming alongside with you learning how to share their work or create work in a digital platform are part of this. But that's certainly something that I think we have an interest in working on. We're trying to develop programs that that can complement the great work that our friends at places like the Rosé Foundation are leading in terms of grant investments. But I also know, if you're like me, I could barely figure out how to just get online with Zoom 17 weeks ago. And now, look at all the things that are happening, right? The pandemic has been a catalyst for us to build capacity and strength, both as creators, like all of you, and as audience members, like me. How do I take part in an artistic experience online? And so I think that's a learning journey that we can do together. And I'll end my comments perhaps, and we can talk more about the various programs we have available, but I'll just end my comments by saying, you know, I guess I'd invite all of you to sort of address, what is this moment asking of us? What is this time that we have affording us to consider, to undertake, to create, to foster? And then once we know the answer to that, we figure out how the digital realm helps us do that. So I'll end my comments there. Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you very much, Patty. And we are going to get back to you in a few minutes, but I would like to introduce now Simon Mallet, Executive Director with the Rosa Foundation. And Simon has bringing a lot of passion for the arts management and artistic and organizational innovation with as Executive Director for the Rosa Foundation. He was theater director as well, right? Well, he by profession. And Simon earned Bachelor Arts from the University of Guelph and Master of Fine Arts from the University of Calgary. He received the Lieutenant Governor for Alberta Emerging Artist Award in 2008 and was named Calgary Top 40 Under 40 in 2011. Has won and has been nominated for a number of professional theater awards, including the Betty Mitchell Award for Outstanding Direction in 2014. Simon, the space is yours. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Miguel. And thanks to Patty for the land acknowledgement as well. I think that's it's always an important inclusion in any of these meetings. I just wanted to speak a little bit about from sort of the Rosé Foundation's lens and our activities sort of since this all started in the middle of March. One of the, as we sort of looked around, I think in the immediate aftermath of physical distancing and people being asked to stay at home, one of the early trends that we identified was that a lot of people were turning to the arts and looking for artistic activities, whether that was an increase in Netflix viewership, or whether it was people, performing music online and doing sort of other forms of individual artistic activity online. There was the immediate gap being felt, I think, when that sort of social togetherness was not possible, and people were seeking new ways to generate that. And and I think part of what we recognized in that was the role that arts could fill through the pandemic. Certainly, as homeschooling evolved, that there was an opportunity, as it does when schools are in person, for the arts to play a big role in assisting parents and teachers in the delivery of key curriculum. There was also certainly addressing social isolation, especially among vulnerable populations like seniors. There was a real need for the arts to help support folks in mental health and wellness. Again, that sense of belonging, that sense of togetherness, and then also, there was I think about some of the sort of the first viral arts experiences that went live, and I think about the video of the Edmonton Symphony and the Calgary Symphony sort of playing a piece of music together. That sense of social cohesion, of participatory togetherness that digital art expression was able to create. And so as we sort of looked forward, we said, well, these are all really sort of valuable contributions that the arts can make. And so often, I think in the arts, we're asked to speak about what value the arts has, and there's certainly an economic argument for the arts, but then there's there's the sort of social argument for the arts as well. And I think we were really seeing that in significant ways manifesting through digital arts content as the world changed, as people turned to arts increasingly. And so what we decided to do was to help support that activity, to help support, most of our funding is with organizations, arts organizations. And so we developed a granting program in order to support the development and execution of online arts programming, both to, continue relationships, allow organizations to continue relationships with their audiences, but also to address some of those societal needs and gaps. The other thing, because we sort of live at the intersection as a foundation, we live at the intersection of arts and business. A lot of what we talk about and think about are the long-term ramifications, and how can we, through our granting program, how can we help organizations to plant the seeds of change? How can we help them to create adaptive capacity to change how they're doing things now and set themselves up in a strong position for the future? And so that was one of the key things that we asked organizations to articulate when they applied for these grants, was recognizing that there's an immediacy now in terms of the need for the arts organizations to do some of this work online, but also how can this set you up for success in the future? And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to continue this work that you're proposing, but how is this planting, the seeds for, as Patty was talking about, this sort of wave of innovation that's coming. And one of the things I think we learned through that process was that straight pivots of artistic work were perhaps not the answer. So just to say we were going to do this concert live, now we're going to do it online, it kind of wasn't sufficient. It really became about going, what is the experience that people are missing, and how can we create that in a way that's true to who we are as an organization, but also satisfies what it is that people are looking for, and what it is that people are looking to get out of that. And I think that the long-term pursuit of that is that a lot of the work that we've supported is going to wind up being hopefully, you know, once we can go back to gathering in person, it's going to serve a really sort of complementary role to that in-person activity, because it can't, as Miguel was saying in the opening, like theater online is not the same as theater in person. There is a liveness and an interactivity that that is essential to that. And I think unless you're designing a theater piece specifically to be delivered in an online environment, it's a different experience. And so how can those experiences be developed in a way that that serve a complementary role, that allow you to deepen the relationships and engagement with your audience, and you know, create new access, new opportunities for them, and think about work that is specifically designed to be delivered online, because it is fundamentally different. It's still addressing, I think, some of those same needs, that desire to be moved, but certainly also that desire to gather, that desire to be with others. And so, you know, the benefit of, to me, live online work necessitates the awareness and presence of other audience members there, which is strange. You know, there's a participant list on the right side of my screen right now, but you know, Zoom could be lying to me. And so knowing that there are other people there, knowing that there are other people sharing in that experience, I think is so central. And so, you know, it's a big part of my thinking in terms of the future as we continue to think about and design this work, is how do you create that sense of gathering together. So, you know, we were super fortunate to be joined by both the Calgary Foundation and Calgary Arts Development in these online programming grants. We've invested together between the three of us. We've put $500,000 into artists, arts collectives, nonprofits, and registered charities doing artwork for the digital platforms. So there's $500,000 worth of activity that's happening. A lot of that has already started to manifest and has proven to be, you know, really impactful and really beautiful work. And there's a lot more still to come. And I will say the one other thing, just to, you know, respond to Minister Ahir's comments in the opening about not knowing necessarily what it is that's going on. One of the other things that we really wanted to do was sort of make sure that that this awareness of the emergence of all of this online programming was happening. So we've been keeping, our marketing and communications manager, Lisa Mackay, has been keeping these online arts programming listings for all of Alberta. So if you go onto our website, you can see all kinds of online arts work that is happening. There's music, there's theater, there's dance, there's literary events, there's literally anything you could ask for. It is happening. There are organizations doing this work in interesting ways, and I encourage you all to check it out.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much for the opening remarks, and we are going to get back to you in a few minutes, but let's present Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer is the Director of Programming at Arts Commons, Western Canada's largest center for the arts in Calgary, based in Calgary, Alberta. Jennifer joined Arts Commons in 2003, and Jennifer's work in the field of arts administration began with theater stage management, leading to event planning and arts venue management, to presenting and interdisciplinary creation. She serves as the treasurer of the board of directors for the Association for Performing Arts Professionals and is an active member of multiple arts service organizations. Over the past 17 seasons with Arts Commons, Jennifer has exponentially grown presenting and the programming department. Arts Commons Presents currently features 5 seasonal series enhanced by special interest presentations. And with the support of her organization, she has developed new series for visual art galleries, educational, working with National Geographic and on-site school. And thank you very much, Jennifer, for joining us today. And go ahead, please.
Here we go. Forgive me, I'm having a quick technical difficulty.
It's okay, it's okay.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Miguel, and Casa Mexico and all of your partners for hosting today's conversation. And I also want to say congratulations to all of the artists who presented in the virtual Latin American art exhibition. It was lovely to get to know your work. As Director of Programming for Arts Commons, I do have the opportunity to work in the multidisciplinary area of the the arts. The perspective really that I have to share is that of a career arts administrator and a curator, like many of you who've had to slam on the brakes recently and regroup and plan for an uncertain future in a short period of time. And despite all of the challenges, I've become really excited about the future of the arts, especially in the digital realm, and how the acceptance of current technology and the development of new technology and skill sets are going to benefit all of our arts ecosystems. It is important to recognize, I think, the work of the artists and the organizations who have been committed to development in the digital realm for some time now. These trailblazers and beta testers are playing a critical role for many of us who are jumping into new work at different points of our learning. And the current spirit of working together and sharing information from all angles of the arts sector right now is unprecedented. I think it's exciting. There's been a real wake-up call in the arts. We're being forced to examine our business models and forced to invest in our digital systems and skill sets. And we are very much transitioning from, oh, we have to keep up with technology, more to, okay, you know, we need to rethink our business models and let's prioritize our digital future and understand its impact on our business and in the arts. So at Arts Commons, we've got the privilege of having a pretty large staff. And currently, I'd say our digital future is really being looked at by all departments in some way. You know, from conversations in production about streaming infrastructure to artist contracts and new digital legal considerations. We're looking at our IT systems and our platforms and databases, and then also taking notice of how individual workloads can start to shift as new ways of working take root. And it's been exciting to really work with a lot of industry associations in a collaborative way and colleagues in and out of Calgary. There are a few things that I'm particularly interested in digging into that I'd like to share. The first is really accessibility in the digital environment. In particular, I'm excited about artwork and platforms that are serving to closed caption audiences, audio described and ASL audiences. And thank you, Calgary Arts Development, for the work that you're doing serving the ASL community. There's some really great learning online for creating low vision work in the arts. And then, of course, just all the new content that is streaming provides a new level of accessibility to artwork. I'm also particularly fascinated with independent artists and small organizations and the DIY online content initiatives and curation, because their work is often very self-taught. It can be nimble, it is often well-directed to a very specific audience. And then on the flip side, there's these big budget, you know, media partnership, corporate investment, streamed concerts, and performing arts. And I really believe that most of us kind of land in the middle. You know, we're figuring out how to participate in a meaningful way, balance the resources that we have, and then deliver the quality and the impact that we hope to achieve. So from the programmatic side, I believe that getting really clear with what you want to do and why and how you're going to leverage that work can be really essential in guiding your resource development. I also think that this rapid digital evolution is stimulating an incredible wave of professional development in the arts. And for everyone who chooses to invest in your own skills and careers, the webinar learning is limitless right now. I think that new positions and skills are absolutely going to be needed in the arts, just like when social media became essential. And so creating, curating, and sustaining your digital experiences are going to help us stand out as an industry. It will become essential and it will transform aspects of our work. And I truly believe that our competition in the arts isn't with each other. The options are growing for people every day to engage, especially digitally, in entertainment and sport and culture. And so the future, the digital future in the arts for me is very much about how we will remain connected to our audiences, to each other, how we will grow audiences. I believe that our digital investments now are going to keep us relevant in the future. And I think that the digital strategies that we are going to be starting to really put in place will play a critical role in elevating the value of the arts in society in general. So with that, I better wrap up. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the comments, and we are going to come back to the discussion, but let me introduce now Derek Stevenson. He's the strategic team lead for ATV Financial with the branch and arts, arts and culture branch. He has over a decade of experience in various managerial roles in the arts and cultural sector. He was with the Rosa Foundation as the Arts Leadership Manager, working specifically on professional development programs for arts administrators in Alberta. Derek also managed New West Theatre in Lethbridge for 3 years and worked for the Allied Arts Council of Lethbridge. In 2015, Derek was one of the 14 students to graduate from the Masters in International Arts Management program through HEC Montreal, SMU Dallas, and SDA Bocconi. Derek, welcome, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Miguel, and thanks for having me. It's great to have these conversations with so many great leaders in the sector. I think I just kind of want to start out by talking about why ATV is here, why is this financial institution at this meeting of the minds for arts and culture. And ATV started this concept for the branch for arts and culture about 2 years ago, kind of recognizing that there was kind of a huge gap in the banking industry on how to communicate with this arts industry. And they were looking at how can we kind of translate the needs of an arts sector to this institution that has a lot of regulations and rules associated with it. And initially that discussion began around like, how do we get mortgages for artists and how do we look at income differently when, I mean, the future is more connected to something like the gig economy where someone has multiple different jobs, and that's something that the arts sector is used to. Not only are you an artist, you're often doing many different types of art and you're supplementing your income in so many different ways. So you may not have your bi-weekly paycheck to prove that you make income in a year. So that's how the concept began, and it's grown and expanded to serve not only individual artists and arts administrators, but also nonprofits and charities, the screen and film industry, and then creative entrepreneurs. And that kind of ties into this conversation about the future of the digital space in the arts sector. Like many of us, when this pandemic all began, I think our initial reaction was, what are we going to do? What are our clients and what's the sector? How are they going to be affected? And I mean, we had some understanding of what that was, but we really didn't know. And I don't think we still know all of the answers there. And we were being very reactive. And I kept my ear very close to the television screen when Justin Trudeau would announce the next government funding program, because it's the banks that were releasing those funds and administrating them. And as soon as one was announced, I'd get 5 to 10 emails asking about when people can access it. But that just shows how affected, and I know Patty brought up in her dialogue there about how affected and how immediate the need was for these arts organizations to need cash flow and to need to keep operating kind of instantaneously. And it was a lot of people came to us from individual artists who lost their gig for 2 weeks and didn't know how to pay their credit card bill, all the way to an arts organization that didn't know how to pay their staff. And so what the viewpoint of that has been really interesting to see, a sector-wide approach, how different organizations, different individuals of all shapes and sizes have managed their way through this pandemic. It's been challenging. I don't think there's been one answer. And like many of you, I've been relying a lot on my colleagues and listening and learning. And I must commend the Rosé Foundation's resource page, which I've used multiple times to gather information on how to advise people on cash flow and how to advise people on what they should do moving forward. And as a bank, I mean, it started with how do we defer your payments on your credit card? How do we lower your interest rates? How do we get you access to the CEBA loans? And those are very technical things, and they're all government programs, but we know that arts organizations needed it, and they needed it quickly to keep going. I think what we're going to see, and shortly, because the first kind of 3 months is up, is now what? Now what is everyone going to do when these government programs, will they continue? Will they extend? Can people continue to last on them? And what are the ripple effects going to be moving forward? So it's a challenge, and I'm excited to continue to have this dialogue with everyone here on it, and learn from you and tell you my experiences here at the bank. But I hate to call us the bank because we are the branch for arts and culture, and it's that sector that we serve. And I think what makes us unique is we're less financial bottom line driven as we are like many of the nonprofits in the group. We're mission driven and really want to serve the sector and be an ally on that. So yeah, that's why we're at the table, and we're happy to be a part of this dialogue.
Thank you very much, Derek. Thank you for the comments. And now we are going to start with a little round of a panel discussion, and we're going to start with some questions that is going to, for everybody, but I would like to start with Patty. Patty, you can come back here. How Calgary Arts Development is adapting to the new reality, and how your clients, I know that you work with different arts organizations, how they are adapting to this new reality. What is your perspective? And the same question is for everybody, okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think COVID-19 and other issues that have arisen have formed the catalyst to cause us to become more conversant and adaptive when it comes to working in the digital realm. You know, I suspect that many of us will continue to have Zoom meetings. They actually happen to be really super efficient and effective on a lot of fronts, but not all. Again, I think we're going to try and find that balance of the pendulum swinging, right? And so it was over here, and now it's gone over here, and somehow we're going to try and find something in the center. So, as I said earlier, that I believe this is a permanent change. And what I'm most excited about is what we will see happen in the digital realm, both from an artist creative presentation exhibition perspective and an audience perspective. Something that we've undertaken again in partnership with the Rosé Foundation is sponsoring research on how Albertans feel about coming back to events, right? And they very, very much want to take part in live events again. They are not prepared to risk their health and safety to do that. So again, another piece of evidence that says we're going to be one of the last to recover in a live context. But that doesn't mean we can't be doing things amazing on the digital front. And I'll put a link in the chat box around a program that we've just announced called the Resiliency Fund. It's $1.15 million for innovation. So as organizations, as you think about how you can continue to share your work with Calgarians and your audiences, and you innovate because you're having to adjust, we've got a program available that is about your well-being. Thank you, Simon, for sharing the Stone Olison piece. We're going to be offering some sessions so people can do a deep dive into the research and try and think about what it means for them. Similarly, we are involved in related work that is around what these kinds of experiences can be. So to Jennifer's point earlier, how are we thinking about our work differently in this kind of format? And I see artists and arts leaders and arts workers thinking about that all the time. So I'm very grateful that we get to take part in those conversations, and things like today that CASA Mexico is leading. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of off the top where we're at.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think we have a future. For my perspective, I think we did very well with this art festival. We together from May 15th to June 30th, we have 39 online programs almost every day for different perspectives: theater, musical performances, conversations, etc. But obviously the main question right now is how to come back, right, to real events. I'm just very happy that CSpace is going to reopen doors on July 6th, very soon, next week. And obviously we are planning to see if we can organize a small groups, right? I think for me, the next experience is going to be how to combine don't lose the online experience, but at the same time, have a small events, right? In the theater, for example, just for people that want to have the real experience, a kind of VIP experience. But what is your perspective, Simon, on this? How is the Rosa Foundation adapting to the new world, to the new technology, and your clients that you work directly with different organizations that are asking for support from?
I mean, I think one of the, it's kind of come up in I think a few of the things that both Patty and I have talked about. One of the ways that I think we've changed significantly is through collaboration with others who are doing the work. You know, I think it was a Thursday when the government put a ban on public gatherings of over 250 people, and on Friday, Patty emailed all of the arts funders for Alberta and said, we need to talk. And like it or not, we've been talking a whole lot ever since then. There's been conversations about do we really still need to meet twice a week? But the level of collaboration and the level of cooperation that has come about between those of us who care deeply about the health and well-being of the arts sector in Alberta has been really great, and you know, has allowed ourselves and CADA and the Calgary Foundation locally to cooperate and collaborate on granting programs. Edmonton Community Foundation and Edmonton Arts Council have collaborated on programs up there. You know, we're in constant conversation about what's next and how can we support it. And I think you know, like, we don't necessarily typically support a lot of programming grants because we're more interested in sort of the capacity building side of things. But we felt there was an opportunity through the online programming to also build capacity in organizations. And now, you know, it's great that like CADA has put a bunch of their emergency funding in terms of looking at organizational structures and pieces, you know, where like we historically do a lot of work as well, and obviously they do too through operating funding, but these are kind of all byproducts of identifying what's next and what the next challenges are. You know, as a foundation, one of our great strengths is our ability to be nimble and to adjust and adapt quite quickly. And a great deal of thanks goes to the board of directors of the Rosé Foundation for enabling me to sort of listen to what's needed and react. And I think right now that's kind of the phase that I'm in. And so, you know, I know Patty is looking at putting together some community conversations, and I am absolutely going to piggyback on those and listen in and hear what arts organizations need as they do what you're talking about, Miguel, in terms of like, are they doing small programming? Are they doing backyard concerts? Are they like, what does this next wave of activity look like? What do organizations need in this next step in order to be supported in the direction that they feel is going to be best for the long-term interest of their organization? And how can we adapt to that? How can we support that? And how can we sort of help to continue to sort of guide and foster organizations through that, so that the sector is the strongest it can be on the other side? So I don't know exactly and specifically what that looks like at this point. I think I think different organizations are in different places. Some have jumped into online work, others have steadfastly not, for and for good reason. For those organizations, it's not an area they feel comfortable in, or that their work translates well to, and so they, their next set of needs is going to be different from another organization. So that's a really long way of saying I don't know. But I'm interested in hearing from organizations what they do need and how we can support it, and not losing artists in this either. I mean, as a funder, because we're a foundation, we cannot grant directly to artists, but we support artists in other ways, especially through organizations who are hiring artists. A lot of the funding from the online programming grants went to hiring artists, and we can't lose the artists in this either. And so I think it's a lot of listening and trying to figure out how we can help at this point.
Oh, no, that's great. Jennifer, what is your perspective about what you hear and how Arts Commons is adapting, and your clients as well, right? You have big audiences and big groups that are coming, international groups probably.
Absolutely. When everything started, we really started with a big transition to cloud-based IT, which was no small feat, and it still continues. A lot of work has been done internally on improving and establishing our digital communication platforms, both internally with each other, but externally with our audiences and communicating with partners. I'd say that there's an incredible amount of micro-learning going on. Sure, people are joining webinars and whatnot, but consuming hints and tips and tricks and pieces from other stakeholders and friends and colleagues about what they're learning, and then adapting it into our work. So I think that's something that maybe sometimes in the art we don't make time for, is our continued day-to-day learning in nice small bite-sized pieces. So a lot of that is happening. Look, this has been tough when we talk about the artists that we work with, both community artists and international. Their worlds are rocked. So one of the very first things that we did was ensure that especially all of the local artists that we had contracted through the rest of the season were fully paid out on their contracts, and we're continue to support our local artists as much as physically possible, and rebooking their work into the next season. So that hasn't been a small feat either. I think the other thing when it comes to adapting to the new reality goes back to taking a look at our business models, our skill sets. I know programmatically, if you can't sell a ticket, if you can't have a school come into the Arts Center, well, we've been digging into all that hybrid programming. So education is a really great place to work with teachers in a new way, and schools in class in a new way online. And then hopefully in the future, we'll work towards that hybrid work being a combination of pre and post class online, and maybe classes come in the school. So our adapting is really a lot of brainstorming and a lot of caring for each other.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much. So Derek, I know that ATB has been a bank that always has been very, very futuristic. How is ATB adapting, or it was an opportunity right now for the bank to be an advantage to provide better services or to serve the community in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think ATB as an organization was a bit ahead of the curve in many ways. As a corporation, a lot of our staff already worked from home and enabled the Google Suite, and kind of was prepared for some of this online conversation. However, the Branch for Arts and Culture focused a lot on bringing people together, welcoming people into our spaces, both our branch on Stephen Avenue in Calgary and then on Jasper Avenue in Edmonton. So we were challenged on that in many ways, because that was a huge connecting point for us, was to be different and to stand out from your typical bank, and kind of look for opportunities to invite different groups. I know both Calgary Arts Development and Rosé Foundation both have been in our space and done presentations, and we really embraced that opportunity. What we've seen more of, like everyone else, is how impacted our clients and our membership have been in this. And I think there's a podcast that I listened to called Seeing Eye to Eye, and one of the things that they talked about on one of their episodes was with the Philadelphia Orchestra, how they've really shifted from being a performing arts organization to a media broadcasting organization overnight, and how important it was for them to really put time, effort, and resources into digitization. But brought up into that conversation was that some of these arts institutions and have functioned in a very similar way since the 19th century, and have been kind of slower to move along. And this crisis is likely going to be one of our defining moments in this century. And whether we like it or not, arts organizations and artists are going to need to shift their focus and invest in technology, and look for ways to connect digitally in ways that they maybe never have before. So although it's a crisis, it's also an opportunity. And I think some organizations are really thriving in this opportunity and looking at it as a chance to redevelop and look at their resources and look at their ways of connecting with audiences. And others are going to have a more difficult time doing that. I think there's been some great examples. Miguel, your organization has done such a great job this week and throughout this pandemic, and being a leader in this. We've seen some other examples. I want to direct people to the monetizing conversation that Rosé hosted, where WordFest and Calgary Folk Festival and CUF and a few other organizations shared their experience with starting to monetize their product digitally. And they've really kind of stepped up in different ways and integrated new platforms on how to bring in dollars differently. But at the end of the day, sometimes it might not be enough. And I think the work that Rosé, Calgary Arts Development, all these funders have been doing to step up is huge. But we have to recognize that's 1/3 of kind of the 3 types of income that arts organizations get, right? They get their government funding from Calgary Arts Development, Rosé, AFA, Canada Council. That's one, but then they also are losing all of their earned revenue, like Jennifer's talking about, your ticket revenue, your concession revenue, merchandise revenue, anything that's earned. And then you also have to come up with, how do you connect with corporations and sponsors and donors in this time, which is that sort of third pool. And I know from ATV's perspective, it's challenging as well. I don't work in sponsorship, but ATV isn't interested in sponsoring things that are bringing people together right now. It's too risky. There's too much there, even though we are in phase 2 and we can do some live performances. I know 100 people are allowed in a physical space if you have physical distancing, but as a corporation, sometimes they may not want to be involved in kind of sponsoring that. So you have to shift digitally to get that support as well. So I don't know if we have the answers, but I know a lot of organizations have had to shift that focus and look for new ways to kind of not only gain their grant revenue and keep and maintain that, but also look at ways to get some earned revenue to keep that cash flow moving.
No, that's great points there. And I think monetization is a great point. And well, before we go to we are going to answer some questions from the audience as well. But before we go to that, trying to summarize a little bit, we are living in a new economy. Basically, we are trying to discover what the future looks like. We are facing the pandemic. We are facing economic challenges locally here in the province, internationally as well. We know that diversification is a great opportunity probably for the arts sector as well. And how we can combine all this together, and how the arts sector, particularly here in Canada or in Alberta, how we are going to be more competitive in the future, because obviously there is going to be competition. Right now, there is no border, right? When we put the programs online, there is obviously people can see these programs. It's an opportunity because more people can see the events. In the coming back again to the festival that we organize, we have some events that reach about 8,000 people or 1,000 people or 700 people of the 39 events that I mentioned. So that this is amazing, right? Because in our regular events, usually we reach 100 people, 200 people. Right now, we have a great opportunity to showcase more the talent of our province, but also how do you see, and I'm going to start with Patty probably, how we see how our province is going to be more, our province and our city, right? How we are going to be more competitive, more, how we are going to help the economy, how the arts sector is going to take a role in the new economy, and obviously to monetize for the organizations, but also for the people, right? For the artists that needs to feed the table. And
sure. Well, you know, just as a kind of, again, context setting. So if we look at the direct economic output of the organizations that we invest in, so that's just the organizations that we make a grant to at Calgary Arts Development, $131 million in 2019. 80% of that was through artist contracts, arts workers, full-time staff, all of that. Those people in turn buy groceries, pay for gas, pay mortgages, pay taxes, all those kinds of things. So we know that the arts make an economic impact. And, you know, because you're not for profit doesn't mean you're for loss. So you got to make the money, you got to make the in be more than the out over a long run. Otherwise you don't survive. That's just how it is. So when we talk about business, or when I talk about business, I mean the not-for-profit as much as I mean anybody in the for-profit sector. Margins are very, very thin, but where the money and the investment goes is in people. That is the economic impact that we will make. And anybody who watches the news over and over and over again, it's about job creation. $1 million into the arts creates 22 jobs. $1 million into oil and gas 5 years ago created 2 jobs. I don't even think it gets to 2 jobs now in oil and gas. So we know the arts are an economic driver. And what I'm so thrilled about is in 2020, not only does CADA have a strategic priority of the creative economy, which, by the way, even in COVID-19 is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but Calgary Economic Development has identified culture as an economic driver. Yesterday, the government of Alberta announced their economic recovery plan, and arts and culture is one of the pillars that they're going to increase their investment in. We know that the decision makers, the people who are in power, are acknowledging the role that arts and culture plays. And all the things that Derek and Miguel talked to earlier about this monetizing piece, it is all going to be part and parcel of this. And that's where the good work that the Rosé Foundation is doing around capacity building, and where we hope we can work with each other and leverage and amplify, is all part of this. You know, the one thing I would say to all of you is, you know, if you think about the way in which citizens have leaned on the arts during this pandemic, it has been significant, and it has mostly been free. That's why we have public support of the arts, so that when people need it the most, the arts are there and the arts are accessible. And as we come out of this, we will then have to figure out the way to sort of generate the business cycle that brings those dollars back in to organizations, so that we can all work together to continue the virtuous cycle. So don't let anybody in the for-profit ever tell you that, oh, you get government grants, therefore you don't mean as much. That is bull. That is just part of your business model. That's how we all think of business models differently. Yours happens to include investment from government because of the public benefit we provide as the arts sector. And that's on top of the economic benefit we provide.
Excellent, excellent, Patty. Great comments, and happy for this province. I'm very proud of being Canadian and Albertan. Simon, you want to comment a little bit? You want to comment in the monetization that you are doing? Because I think you have very great feedback on experiences, how to monetize a little bit.
Yeah, everything Patty said. Yeah, I think, I mean, you know, like obviously monetization is I think one of the next big things to think about in terms of strategy, in terms of pricing. But I think really one of the big things for me is what is the value proposition? And I think there are two ways in to that. One is comes back to this idea of what is the experience, what is the unique experience that you're offering, and how is that of value to a potential audience. And I think that requires a solution that is not a stand-in for a live experience. You know, again, to come back to this idea of going like what I think about Folkfest and their live series, the Virtually Live that they've been doing, where they're bringing together two musicians in conversation, so to speak, in musical conversation, and there's an intimacy to that experience that is different from going to the Folkfest, because we can't go to the Folkfest this summer, which breaks my heart. And so what they are offering is something that's different. It's something that you unless you're going to a very small cafe, you're not going to get that kind of intimate gathering. And so I think, you know, there's a unique value proposition there. And I think that as artists and organizations continue to think about digital offerings, I think that value proposition is a big part of it. And then I think the other opportunity is around arts patronage and the fact that, you know, many of these organizations and individual artists have loyal supporters, and I think there's a great recognition that now is a time when that support needs to be leaned on in significant ways. And we've seen it a lot in terms of the donation of tickets that were purchased, and then the value of them was donated rather than the donation coming back. But I think even as organizations start to offer programs that exploring opportunities for monetization that are not just about here's the thing that we want you to buy a ticket to, but is about what is our relationship, what kind of support do we need through this time, how can we reward your willingness to participate in meeting those needs in a way that provides, you know, a different kind of access to artists, and there's an opportunity to meet them, and again, deepen that connection, deepen the relationships, engage with your stakeholders in different ways, whether that's through, you know, like one of the guests in the monetization panel that we had was a cabaret performer who, you know, and they've had success with a Patreon model where people make a monthly contribution to the organization. And what they're getting is this exclusive content. They're getting, you know, additional kind of ways of interacting with the organization until the time comes when they can experience those things live again. And so I think it's really about, you know, artists create, arts organizations create. There's opportunity for great creativity. And I think that we need to lean on that as we think about monetizing these things. And then, you know, and then the price point and the vehicle of delivery and all of the sort of logistics pieces. I think, you know, there are opportunities available, but I think again, it needs to be thought of as what is the experience of the person who's paying for this experience, and how are they finding value in that, whether it's value in terms of the connection to the organization or value in terms of their connection to the activity itself. And then just, you know, if you're interested in a broader conversation and to hear about what Calgary Queer Arts did with their film festival, the early experiences of Folkfest, and the others who spoke, the monetization webinar that we did is also available on our website as well. So you can check that out too.
That's great. Thank you, Simon. And Jennifer, just what is your point of view? And I think you are an organization that works a lot with the patronage model, I guess, and sponsors, and what is your perspective about the future?
Yeah, a little less about monetization and a little more about how to be competitive. I think going back to what Simon said about understanding and assessing the value that we bring to our patrons and to society in general. I think there is a lot to be said about the decolonization or pushing past these Eurocentric models in the arts to ensure that the arts in general, broadly, are truly accessible to everyone. So congratulations to the people who have been doing good work in those areas. And with that is social relevance. If you want to really have meaning to people, you just simply need to be relevant. So I think the other thing is with regards to monetization, but less about charging a ticket price and more about how you choose to work. I think there's a lot to be said for a very tight working relationship in an organization between programming, marketing, communications, and development. And there is a lot to be said about working not so much for your corporate sponsors, but in close alignment with your corporate sponsors, and understanding that sometimes the arts really just does take a village to bring it all together and get it out to the people. So understanding and loving your corporate partners, especially when you have amazing partners who are willing to go on a ride with you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I think we are arriving towards, well, it's just 1 minute left here in the conversation. I think we have a great future. My vision I learned a lot about, I love technology to start. And when we decided just to run this program online, also it was I think it was a great decision, and it was more than expected. And I want to thank you very much, all the organizations that support this Latin American Art Festival that is virtual this year. Calgary Arts Development, of course, the Rosa Foundation, and CSpace King Edward, and Hispanic Art that were partners with us. And with that, I just oh, my screen is doing. I just want to say that it was a really amazing experience, and not just for ourselves, but I think the opportunity to showcase the talent of all the artists that participated with us. I want to take this moment as a way to recognize the amazing job of all the visual artists, theatrical performers, musicians, speakers, poetry, etc. It was an amazing experience. I'm very happy that we had the opportunity to work together and to expose more the work that they do. We creating collaboration, I think, is very important. Creativity is very important, and just put people together and thrive. And I think we have a bright future. And with that, thank you very much to all of you, to Patty Pond, to Jennifer Johnson, to Simon Malek and Derek Stevenson, and have a great day, everyone. Hasta luego. Thank you very much.